person. Get in the Discord. The Discord is free for everybody. The link is in the bio. And now, without further ado, my guy, A Double. Dude, what it do?
The greatest sporting event ever?
So is that how we're starting this conversation?
Man, I don't know what could ever really top that. If you want to look at it from an objective, just pure entertainment excellence standpoint, like I just think just the magnitude of it, the drama of it, the technical brilliance of it, like everything that came together for this highly anticipated final. Because I felt this was like the most anticipated final since Germany Argentina was really good, but maybe, and I wasn't even following the sport at the time. Maybe France, not France. What was the O2 final?
Brazil, Germany.
Yeah, I feel like that was pretty anticipated. But I don't know, I just felt like this one had all the makings to be special. And as you people know, I'm Croatian, so I will not put 2018 up there, obviously. Like 2022, like that, I just felt like this was the matchup of all matchups. Like this was, everything was situated for this to be something special. And to me, I just think this is something that we're going to talk about for the next 40, 50 years.
Dude, that World Cup final, I think is let's add context, right? I'm someone that likes to add context. It is the world sport. It's the world's main event. It's the world's biggest game. You have two iconic nations in world football with two iconic players. All the eyes on it. Oftentimes, man, as a society, we'll hype up something. I've done it with UFC cards. We've done it with football Sundays, right? We'll be like, dude, this is a Sunday where you got to make sure you're home to watch these games. And then we'll have like the +1 weekend where it's like, hey, you know what, this weekend, maybe you should not watch football, right? Go out with the missus, go out with your significant other and enjoy yourself, right? But when you add the legacy aspect of Messi and even Mbappe, who could have went back to back, you add the star power that was in this game, and then the fact, dude, that it actually delivered. I can't get over yesterday, bro. I think it's the best sporting event I've ever seen. The pressure of it, and the two main attractions were Messi and Mbappe, and for both of them to have fucking banger performances, bro. And then you have the first ever World Cup final to go into extra times and both teams score in the extra time. The drama of it, the ups and downs if you're an Argentina fan or a French fan, and then for it to end on penalty kicks, it's going to be hard to ever top that, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we also have to include like just the comeback because everyone loves a good comeback. The fact that France for 70 minutes didn't have a shot, like they looked pretty helpless out there. And though it was a really dramatic move taking off Giroud and Dembele, but look, credit to Deschamps. He's been very criticized over the years, but he just felt like the team needed some energy, and they made some big time moves between. I always forget the young kids, Muani, and then obviously Coleman came on later. By the way, I think Kingsley Coleman might go down as like one of the greatest all-time super subs. I just feel like the energy he brings every time, like that pace, made a difference. And credit to Deschamps. And it just you had these different elements of like how this comeback came about. But then I think something we always have to talk about now is just we got that iconic goalie. And man, Emiliano Martinez. I know he plays for Aston Villa now, but he's going to be somewhere big in these next 6 months because that's to me one of the most historic goalkeeping performances we've ever seen.
I mean, bro, that save that he made at the end, 123rd minute, to make that save, that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's like that play is gonna live forever. And then his performance in penalty shootouts, what he's done, like what he did against the Netherlands, and then what he did against France also. But dude, like the craziest thing for me is just the way things were written down, like the way things transpired it was wild, right? Like Di Maria scores in the final after missing the final in 2014. Who knows if we're having this discussion about the GOAT coming into this last weekend, if Di Maria, who at the time was one of the best players in the world, played in that 2014 final because he left because of injury. And that's been like the MO of his career, right? Like he plays a little bit, he plays well, and then he gets hurt. And he misses these big games.
Yeah.
So he scores in the final. He gets subbed out. And I felt like every substitution, bro, that France made was a home run, right? Coman comes in. The the young
Turam.
yeah, Thuram, the young buck from Real Madrid. I'm blanking on his name right now. The young kid, he's like 20.
Kamavinga made a difference.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that dude came in also. And then everything that Argentina did was highly questionable. You know how I feel about dudes coming in cold turkey and being asked to take a penalty kick. When they put in Dybala, I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna have him take a penalty kick. And he just shot a missile down
Yeah,
the
that's
middle.
dicey.
I hate that shit, bro. I hate that shit. It's the weird. It's what happened to England against
Yeah, it
Italy
was
in the Euro Cup, right? The three guys that he put
mhm.
in, Rashford, Saka, and
Sancho.
and Sancho, they all get subbed on. They don't even touch the ball. And now it's like, you know what, dude? It's the Euro Cup final. Go take a penalty kick. They did that with Dybala, and I was like, oh my God. Luckily for them, it ended up turning out well. I didn't have an issue with Coman taking the penalty kick because he got subbed in like the 70th and he played like an hour. You know what I mean? But it's
Mhm.
just the same analogy with the Knicks a couple of years ago, dude. They played Trae Young in the playoffs, and Ntilikina hasn't played the entire game. And with 15 seconds left, they go, you know what, yo, come in, you're our defensive wizard. You got to guard Trae Young. It's like, dude, what? Of course I got put in a blender and he scored a layup and we lose the game. So that was driving me crazy, Alan. I was really nervous about that because I was financially invested in Argentina. Everyone saw, but
Mhm.
also just because I wanted Argentina to win for the Messi thing. It's like, man, if they go down like that, that's going to be brutal.
Yeah, there was some real moments like Uba Bakamo, who was one of the two players of Rabio that just recovered from that virus. He made like what, two goal line clearances in the overtime, like that. It just you just had these dramatic moments with these individual efforts. It's just like you're never gonna forget. Like he's one of those players because I just thought in general France pretty poor game. Like most individual players struggled, but just those types of moments where you make those goal line clearances. Who doesn't love a goal line clearance? Then you look at the other sides, like Argentina, like as well as they played, those two penalties conceded. Oh, if you're Argentine, you have to be infuriated because they were both very careless, particularly with Otamendi with the tackling. It's just, I think he grappled Moati down, and then just the handball. Like, how do you have your elbow up there in that type of scenario? So it's just those types of moments. It just has to anger you as an Argentinian. But thankfully, when you have a keeper like Martinez, who I think might be the most intimidating keeper ever when it comes to penalty shots, because he's massive to begin with, but the way he's waving his arms, you know he's going to talk his talk. He's going to showboat afterwards. Like he is a nightmare to go against. You saw with the Dutch, and then you saw with France once again. Like credit to Mbappe, who recovered very nicely after that missed penalty against Switzerland the last year. It was like Mbappe for him to hit three penalties on Martinez in the same game. I don't think he's getting enough credit for that.
Dude, what about Martinez also, what he did to Chupameni? Where I don't know if you saw the video, but he does like, yo, he's a sleazeball, bro. So he takes
Yeah,
the soccer ball and he like throws it off centered, like away, and makes the guy taking the penalty kick to go and pick up the ball. Playing mind games, which I love. Get an
mhm.
advantage as best you can. Dude, what about this storyline too, man? Montiel, I hope I'm saying his name right. The guy that
Right
scored,
back.
the guy that scored the game-winning penalty kick was the one
Yeah,
who gave up the handball in extra time.
right.
So like to go from hero, because he played a good game, from hero to zero to being the scapegoat, like, oh my God, I'm gonna cost my nation, and then to hit the penalty kick to win it. I thought that was a pretty cool wrinkle. I have a couple questions I want to ask you because I do want to give the story is Messi, and rightfully so because he's been such an iconic player for so long. But dude, I think what Mbappe did is the best performance in a loss I think I've ever seen in sports. And I really thought about this before I said it because I was thinking about like Super Bowl losers that had good games. I was thinking about NBA guys. Like the only one that came to mind was like LeBron in 2018 and some of those finals where he was dropping like 35, 12, and 8, and they ended up losing. But in one game with the world watching, for you to go out there and score a hat trick and for you to do what you did, like you said, 3 goals to score 3 penalty kicks in one game, just one game against a goalie like that in Martinez. Alan, I think that's the best performance from a loser ever.
Yeah, I agree. Because you know what's hilarious? The first thing that came up in my mind when it came to standout performers on losing teams was Tony Romo in 2013 against the Broncos, which is hilarious. Just some random regular season game. I don't know if you remember Romo was going like throw to throw with Peyton.
Dude,
And then
how
ironically, I
can you
think he threw a
forget
pick
that
six
game?
to lose the game.
They scored like 100 points that game. It was like
It's
48-51. It
crazy.
was a wild shootout. Yeah, I remember that shit.
I was so happy for Tony Romo because obviously everyone, Tony Romo once upon a time was a big punchline. Even though he had a very good career, he was definitely a punchline. But I don't know when it comes to performances, though. Yeah, Mbappe, because like the actual goal, it's like so he had the two penalties, he had the shootout, but then the second goal was just take it, have volley, and just a perfect connection. Like that's just a pure goal scorer's goal. And I think I saw a stat. This was the first time a player scored 7 goals in a World Cup since Ronaldo in 2002. So it just goes to show you, like, he runs the world, man. Like, obviously, Messi, he had his moment. He's the greatest of all time. But, man, come 2026, and I think whoever's president, him and Mbappe, or her, we don't know what this country's going to happen. But be prepared to see Mbappe at the top in 2026.
I mean, dude, if you look at the lineage of France, in the last 7 tournaments, they've made the final 4 times. They've won 2, which is wild because France was like they've had some iconic players. Like Platini is the most noticeable big name prior to like the Zidane era of French football and Thierry Henry and all these guys that came after. But dude, this run has been since like '98, and you're talking about their team right now. I would bet money that they have a better chance to make a World Cup final than Argentina moving forward. When you look at the roster that they
Yeah, there's
had,
no
like,
doubt about that.
bro, Pogba didn't play,
And
Conte didn't play. They had so many good players that are still young that haven't played. Like this team is, and what they have moving forward. Mbappe is 23, bro. He needs 5 goals to break the all-time record in World Cups. What is he gonna do that in 2026?
yeah, probably. Especially since it's 48 teams now, so the
Oh yeah, yeah,
quality is going to get reduced.
that's true. That's true.
You put him one game against Jamaica, who knows?
But yo, like Mbappe, 23 years old. I think a lot of people became soccer fans yesterday, Alan. Those casuals, I think that was a great game. I saw some comedian put up a reel and he was like, if this is your first time watching soccer, don't watch again because it's not going to get better than this, right? One of the knocks.
Yeah, it
What,
really isn't.
I mean, bro, like, and again, adding context, when you factor in all things considered, for this game to deliver the way it did, man, it really might have been everything that we wanted and some. And to me, Alan, it's something that's gonna live for a it's gonna live forever. Like the way this game ended.
Absolutely.
And do you buy into that notion that this game is gonna be something that is gonna make a lot of fans?
I would hope so because just seeing, I think people just love seeing countries come together, like seeing Buenos Aires go berserk, just seeing all parts of the world, and just just the thrilling back action. I know people look, everyone's got their opinion on penalties, it is what it is at this point, but I just think seeing electrifying superstars that like transcend the sport, like Mbappe to me does that. We know we've known about Messi for over 2 decades now, so I just think having that star talent, the power of a nation, I think it will, and thankfully it'll never be in the winter again, which will be very beneficial to sport. I do think it being the winter did hurt it a bit because I didn't quite see the fan for this World Cup, and understandably so because there's just so much out there going on in sports right now. But no, I think this was a huge moment, and I think it just in general, like Mbappe, whether you want to compare him to LeBron, Pat Mahomes, whatever it may be, but the fact that he's 23 already at this level, it's just he's must see TV, and that's what people want. They want to see the greatest play, and he's on course right now for sure.
Yeah, he's the next decade is his. Like I can't think of another player who's going to run shit the way he is.
Norway, please, please get Holland to a tour in Norway. Please,
So
Norway,
so that's the
get it
thing,
together.
right? Like Holland is just as good as him, but he's never gonna be in international tournaments, bro.
He's they gotta be good enough to make it to a Euro, man. It's so like you gotta be really bad not to make it to a Euro. Like I hope they somehow do it. World Cup, we'll take it. We'll take it step by step. Because I think the world could get behind Norway just because dude, like Holland is must see. Like it's not like obviously they're two totally different players, him and Mbappe, but like you just like a cyborg. Like you just the way he controls the ball. Like you just want to see players do bully stuff and just
Mm.
do things that are superhuman. Like when it comes to superhuman abilities, it's like it's Mbappe and Holland. Like those are the two guys.
This World Cup had a lot of moments. I'm happy the way it ended. I'm happy Messi has buried the GOAT conversation. Um, it kind of solidified it. And I do think that
Yeah,
praising one doesn't mean that you shit on the other, because Ronaldo did his thing also, and
exactly.
Ronaldo is one of those guys that are going to go down. Like, he's in the Mount Rushmore, I think. And dude, who knows if one didn't have the other, do they elevate one another the way they did? Because having that guy that you were chasing or competing with all these years is a big reason why they were both so successful. So to me, hats off to Argentina and to Messi. Thank you for that plus 550. Christmas is going to be wonderful this year, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens now, man. We're going to have Champions League. We'll have the Euro Cup in a couple of years. France will probably be the favorite for that. France is not going anywhere, folks. They'll be back for sure. They'll be back, and also look, they just won it 4 years ago too, so it's not like a team that isn't successful. And I'm excited to see what happens with soccer, bro, because moving forward, like the next World Cup is here in the States. It's going to be big, and they're going to be the host nation of it. I know it's the North America World Cup, but 60 of the 80 games are going to be played in the States. So it's basically the USA World Cup. No offense to our neighbors up north in Canada and our neighbors down south in Mexico. It's going to be the USA World Cup. So I'm excited, man. I think it was great for soccer. I think a lot of casuals are going to start tuning in. And now we'll start focusing more on the NFL, Alan.
Yes, sir. So I mentioned though, you say Champions League. It's crazy that Messi and Mbappe have to play Bayern right away, like a month from now. Like that's just how crazy this season is. And I do wonder, are people going to actually get behind PSG now to see like could these two, superpowers now after going against each other in the final now come together to finally get PSG over the hump? We know PSG will never be a fairy tale story given all the questionable money they've have in their funds, but nevertheless, I think seeing them two together try to finally bring a Champions League to Paris could be a real cool story.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the World Cup and anytime there's international soccer is the embrace between teammates. And it's going to be interesting now to see them go to their club and see what happens. So it was fun, man. I really enjoyed this World Cup. I thought the games were great. I think the storylines were great. And for as much chaos leading into the World Cup that we got, and rightfully so for many reasons, I think it delivered how it ended and
Definitely.
how classic of a game. It's going to always be remembered as probably the best soccer game of all time and maybe the best sporting event of all time. So, Alan, I was happy you gave us some time to come in on this one. I know you were super busy, but I definitely wanted to do some World Cup recap with you before we signed off on the Qatar World Cup.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with what you said. Definitely will be one of the best tournaments ever. That's another debate for another time. But like, look, we got a good 4 months, 4 months, excuse me, 4 weeks of action, and between the upsets to the great underdog stories and to seeing the most iconic player of all time finally get what he deserved, couldn't ask for anything better.
At Nick Day 10 is where you can find me, veteransminimum.com is you can find all things VM. Alan, where can they find you if they want to contact you?
Alan Stick, that's ALLENSTRK.
And we'll catch you guys later this week.